those. Jane Judi Dench started and that's when we got thrown out of the pickle factory. So
well, at least she wasn't sick in the taxi.
She wasn't sick in the taxi this time. No, exactly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Sunday service, as we decide to start calling this now. And I hope you liked our cover picture, with sincere apologies to Mark Wilkinson, but it had to be done. Sorry, I just...
Did it really have to be done?
It had to be done, yeah. In fact, it's a brand new milieu of frankly misappropriating famous album covers and doing our thing with them. So anyway,
there's more to come, because there's plenty of album covers with television screens on them.
Oh yeah,
I'm thinking of one, and I'm thinking of one.
There's lots that we can do. Anyway, welcome to the Sunday show, and we got a few things to rattle through tonight. Look, it almost feels like deja vu, because there's a couple of things that we'll be talking tonight. It's kind of like a game, but didn't we just have that from another company? But we'll come to that in a moment. Let us kick off first of all with projects, and I do believe, Drew, you have finished AN project.
No, I haven't finished a project. I'm working on it. It's still.
I thought I was right. Okay, so
no,
I am.
No, it's not. It's not finished.
I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the other one. I'm talking about the Hercules.
Oh, what did?
All right, easy, Tiger. Let's.
We discussed the fact that I finished that last week. So
yeah, but we hadn't shown the photographs. So here we go.
We've got pictures now. Yes.
Yeah.
So the Zvezda Hercules, which I started last November. It has to be said, and various personal issues stopped me completing it in a timely manner, but now over and finished with. And I have to say, absolutely beautiful model. All issues with this model are down to me alone, and that kind of delay in finishing it. But I think it came out really nice in the end. I think it really very, very little filler needed on this model. The good thing about big models these days is generally they tend to fit. You're not actually, with older models. For instance, I don't know, say the Airfix Hercules. Yours felt like you were kind of herding the bits into position a little bit.
Just a bit, yes.
Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, with big modern kits, this thing, you put the interior together. The interior clumps between the fuselage, and it all just clicks into place. And it's it's about as trouble-free as a big build gets. So I had a look on eBay this week, because I was in the sort of market thinking I might want to have a go at another one very, very shortly. And it's only about 40 quid, which is, quite frankly, astounding value for money for the amount of plastic you get in the box.
Absolutely.
And considering the options you get in the box, and how easy this is as a model to build, anybody with a few models under their belt who fancies a larger model, this comes highly recommended. It does. And also, the thing that does surprise me, looking at it finished on, in the other room, it's not that big. Do you know what I mean? It is a big aeroplane, but in 70-second scale, it's bulky because it's got that big, it's got the big fuselage and stuff like that. But in terms of acreage, it doesn't actually take up an enormous amount of space.
Yes.
Certainly less than I kind of. I mean, the only one of these I previously built was the Airfix one when I was about 12 years old. And obviously, when you're 12, things tend to, look a little bit more imposing. So my memory of this aeroplane is of perhaps a much bigger model than it actually turns out to be in 70-second scale. I mean, I really can't recommend it highly enough. And obviously, we've got the J30 coming later this year with the Allison AE2100 engines and a stretched fuselage, so which will take up a little bit more acreage, but not really any serious amount.
Let's just have a quick chat about how you finish this thing. Now, I'm assuming all that camo is freehand rather than blue tacked.
Yes, that is the entire model was free. In fact, I say that the gunship grey is to me as AS27 gunship grey 2, which was just basically blasted over the whole model first off, and then the other two colours are from Mr. Colour and were free-handed with alternately. When I started freehanding it last year with the HPCH, and when I finished freehanding it 2 weeks ago, I used the PS771, the GSI airbrush. Hopefully, you can't really tell which bits were done with which, because my talents are enough to make it pretty difficult to see which bit's which. But yeah, it came out all right. Entirely free-handed. All the walkways were masked, were sprayed and masked prior to applying the camouflage. They do come as decals in the kit, and I have to say, having used these decals, were I to do this model again, I wouldn't necessarily mask and spray the walkways. I might even just use the decals, because whilst they've got an awful lot of carrier film, because the entire wing section is in one decal with a lot of carrier film between the black lines. But once it's on and down, as long as you're careful about applying it, you get no silvering and you get it bedded down nicely. It's invisible.
I know one of the things Vesda got absolutely dead right on this kit in terms of engineering was how the wings fit onto the fuselage, because the bugbear of previous Hercules kits were literally kind of butt joined.
Yeah,
I can't remember whether the Eschi kit was. I built the Eschi kit. I can't remember how that one went. Certainly the Airfix one, you had to stick spars in, otherwise the wings literally put so much weight on the fuselage they broke the steam.
And the Italeri one is the same.
Yeah,
my memory, as with you, my memory of the Eschi one is not terribly good, and I can't really remember the breakdown of the kit.
No,
the only thing I really remember about the breakdown of the Eschi one was that the vertical tail was separate.
Yes. I'll have a quick look actually live on air to see what the breakdown of the Eschi one was. But yeah, the way they've done the breakdown of the wings on this one is that you get that center section bolts straight onto the fuselage.
Yeah, and the way the upper outer wings are separate, but the lower wings are done in one part each side, so it all locks together really, really strongly. You don't need any spars whatsoever. And the fit is good enough that I know Jennifer, when she built hers, she left the entire wing off and painted it separately to the fuselage and brought it all together at the end. I did add the wing to this one before I started painting, and did sand the joints, through. Didn't apply any filler, but the joints were sanded. Were I to do it again, I defer to Jennifer. I wouldn't add the wing till after it's painted. It's just completely unnecessary. I have this kind of mental block when it comes to doing that sort of thing with models. It's the same with like the wings on an airliner. Very often you can leave the wings separately on an airliner, but I've got a real mental block with doing that, and it always works fine when I do it. I just need to kind of persuade myself that it's the right way to do. So word of advice: if you're building this model and you've got a camouflage scheme to do, follow Jennifer Wright's example and leave the wings off or the wing, because it's a one-piece assembly tip to tip once it's all together, and do your camouflage separately. And if there is any gap when you add it, it's just in small areas at the front and back, which you can easily sand out and touch in. So
I just checked, and the Eschi kit was also butt joined onto the fuselage.
Going onto the fuselage. So
now as soon as I saw the photographs, there was just that crushing kind of the crushing horror of building that kit and just going, oh yeah, I remember that.
I didn't even get the fuselage halves together on mine. I tried adding the vertical tails, and it was so warped and out of shape that I just kind of went, I'm not going to bother with this. It's
I think, as we said the other week, midweek rather, it's ironic that although Italeri clearly they've got hold of the tooling. They probably do have the tooling rather for that kit. They've chosen to stick with theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I picked
probably the better kit still.
I picked the Eschi kit up for under a tenner at Wonderland Models in Edinburgh when I was on holiday up there one time, and they were selling all their old Eschi stuff off really cheap, and I picked it up for a tenner. And I can't escape the feeling I was ripped off a little bit.
I say you were done over to the tune of £10 there. I think
I was out there, which is a real shame. But now we've got the Zvezda kit, and like I say, at £40, available for £40, that is just exceptional value for money. It really is.
Well, I go back to yes, he's going to mention the Sherman again. I'm going to mention the Sherman again, which was £25. Oh, that's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous amount of money for a kit of that quality, and it is. I think probably people saw some of the photographs that that I put up, down to things like the little casting numbers on it. It's a curbside kit, but it's a curbside kit done exceptionally well. So
yeah, which kind of suits me because as far as armor's concerned, I don't tend to want exposed engines and all this interior.
But it's an interesting question from Colin Strachan there. He says, is the current AC-130 in the Italeri range, is that the Eschi kit? I don't know. We're going to have a look and see because as far as I can remember, perhaps it is. Perhaps I've just shot myself in the foot there. I think that might be I'm looking at some photographs here. I'll bring them up on screen. Bear with me a sec. Bear with. Share screen. Chrome tab. Share. Because I was under the impression that Italeri had a Spectre before the Eschi kit came out. But
Italeri did the AC-130A.
Right. Okay.
With three blade props.
Right.
Stuff. So without being able to see the fuselage on that.
There it is.
Yeah, that's the Eschi.
I stand corrected. I will now, for tea tonight, I will be having an extra large slice of humble pie because it turns out Italeri have reissued one of the Eschi Herculeses, and it's the AC-130H. So there we go. We learned something. Thank you for that, Colin. It's nice to know. Always good to be educated by our viewers because I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, fabulous. There you go. It does still live out there. It's not a great kit, but it still lives out there. So we talked about that one. Now we can talk about a project that clearly you haven't finished because you're still working on it.
Yes. So
what I have to work with.
You and me both.
Feelings mutual.
So it's the MB326, the Italeri Reeboks of the Eschi kit, and well, as you know, I've been working on this for a week. And we're putting stickers on. Now I have to give a particular shout out to the wingtip decals here, the way they've done it, because all of this forward part is actually black paint, but it's got a black border to the red, so it's really easy to apply the decal, let it dry, and then fill in all this black area. I used Tamiya's LP5 lacquer, semi-gloss black lacquer, because the thing with that lacquer is it's not like most other lacquers. It lasts. It doesn't go off as quickly as like Mr. Color or something like that, which gives you a chance. It's actually very easy to paint, almost like an enamel, and it doesn't lift colors underlying as much either. So yeah, we're slowly working through this. I'm hoping to get this finished in the next few days. I've got another couple of hours of decals to apply to this one, and then we can get on to varnishing and hopefully bringing it all together. Yeah, lovely little model, highly recommended, and a great color scheme there. Our Australian friends certainly know how to put together a nice anniversary scheme. I would suggest better than anything we tend to achieve.
We have a request. I have a request here from Steve Moores, who says, "Tell us about polishing it, please."
First things first. I use melamine. I'm going to turn that light off because it's a bit bright, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit bright. Yeah.
Yeah. So I use melamine blocks, and people have been saying, "What's a melamine block?" And I'm like, "Well, here, let me Google that for you." It's basically it's a soft foam that was originally intended for packing, but has turned out in the last 20 years or so to be a very, very mild abrasive. So, like these decals, when they're done, I will just give the decals a light polish with this, just to remove any, just basically to even it all out and give it a little bit of a polish. You can see how highly it comes up, but you will remove almost no material with this. I tend to use it for polishing out after I've added an oil paint wash. And the other stuff is just the Trizact, which we keep talking about. Again, courtesy of Jennifer Wright's expertise, and it's just little Trizact pads used very wet, and it's the same thing. Which we use it wet. Go over these. We don't actually have to use it wet, so I can go over these markings now they're dry, and it just sort of helps to bed them into the overall finish. And in terms of polishing, that's about it. Gloss varnish, polish, and then and then final varnishing. Mike Williams is there. John, talking about the melamine blocks. I believe it is. Yeah, it basically is marketed under the trade name of a magic eraser. But if you go on to look, I changed back. If you go on to eBay or places like that, you can get it. I mean, like big envelopes of it for about £3 or £4. Whereas I suspect in a hardware shop they'll charge you £3 or £4 for one little block of it.
You can get them in Poundland. You get a twin pack in Poundland, so and that's where I bought mine in the past. So
probably still cheaper to go on eBay and get a big envelope full of it for £2 or £3.
That's a new one on me, because when you were talking about melamine blocks, I was like, what? And I've got to go down to the land of Pound tomorrow, so I will grab a couple to try them out, because I'm curious. Where did you hear about that one then for using them to polish models?
Believe it or not, right? I watched some videos a while back on restoring retro games consoles. Because I like retro, I like all that retro games console stuff. And one of the things they were using for cleaning up, really dirty old consoles and starting to whiten up the faded and yellow plastic was melamine blocks. And so they're using all sorts of hydrogen peroxide with water in plastic bags and leaving it in the sunlight and then polishing it with melamine blocks. And I kind of went, that looks to me like it might have a modeling application. So I just went on eBay, looked around for some, ordered some, and sure enough, it's got its uses. It's an incredibly fine abrasive. It's like you could go at a decal for half an hour and probably not wear through the ink on it. But for polishing and for removing like oil paint that gets right in the corners when you're doing a wash, because I don't know about you, but if I apply a wash, normally when I apply the final varnish, I go, oh damn it, I've just seen a little bit in a corner that I missed removing. This stuff will get right into those corners. And I mean, chemically, I went on Wikipedia and looked up why melamine block is an abrasive. And apparently, when it's made into a foam, it's a really, really soft, pliable foam. But at a molecular level, it's really, really tough. So it's got this really soft but insistent abrasive quality about it. And so, I just started experimenting with it, and I found numerous uses for it. So
well, I've had them in the past, but I've used them for cleaning the kitchen. So it's like, oh,
you never, and it's just one of those things. Like I say, I just if I hadn't been watching those retro console restoration videos, I would never have, it would never have crossed my mind to use them. So
I can see pretty soon that these are going to get rebranded as Modeller's Magic Sponges by somebody somewhere. So if they haven't done already, yeah, don't worry. It's going to be more merch, lads. More merch, lads and lasses. More merch. So
so somebody will come up and probably do a video or something and claim it's all their idea. But
me.
But yeah, that's where that came from. I'd never actually seen it used in modelling before. I'm not suggesting it hasn't been, but I'd never seen it. So
that's interesting.
Did a little experiment, and it's now a part of my armory.
Well, there you go. I think that is the very definition there of the interesting modelling company that we're able to bring you something hitherto, as far as we're both aware, that's a new tool, or a relatively new tool. We're not claiming to have found it. We are claiming to have found it, but I think that's what we're all about, isn't it?
Well, I think
interesting,
so. And it's kind of like I've been using it for a couple of years now, and it's almost such a nothing item that you virtually forget to mention it. And then you go, I'm just polishing this with a melamine block, and somebody goes, what's a melamine block? And you kind of think, well, doesn't everybody use them, because you're so used to using it by that point.
Well, I must admit, I was watching your video and you were talking about it, and for some reason I got it into my head that what you were using was something kind of like melamine. I think of it actually as like melamine block. I'm thinking it's like marble, and I'm thinking, well,
it is used for kitchen work surfaces, but that is in that is in a different form. It's like
in a different form, yeah.
It's like comparing hard polystyrene to expanded polystyrene.
As soon as I googled it and googled melamine block, and it just kept coming up with magic sponges, magic erasers, I was like, I get it. But now, something I was going to ask you, second question is, because again, this goes back to what Steve Moores was asking about your polishing thing, is that you were using the Trizact, but then you're using car wax. What was the car wax you were using?
The car wax is literally turtle wax.
Just turtle wax turtle wax polishing compound. Light to medium cleaner. Yeah, okay, let me just...
That's, I think that big tub there was about £8. That's as long as you keep it. That's
just found it on eBay. Okay. I'm going to get some of that then.
So it's just and again, that's what I used for the airliner stuff and things like that. And over the last year, the Trizact polish and then the turtle wax. It's not just for car modelers. What can I say? I like to experiment with stuff.
Yeah. You could try experimenting with your camera angles. There we go.
I've even got.
He could hear my mind ticking over there. He could hear me thinking, change.
Look! I've even got markings on my keyboard for the hotkeys now. Oh dear. It's amateur hour.
Well, Steve Moores also says we need a week of just tooltips. That's actually a bad idea. Actually, it is one of the things we're hoping to do with the Interesting Modelling Co. shorts videos when I can get hold of the camera that I need. Is to just do these little short things like that, just nice short 2-3 minute videos.
Top tooltip for tonight: Lateralis. It's still their best album. So, anyway.
Shall we? Well, first of all, we'll have a big hello. We're going to say hello to everybody who's watching tonight. Then we'll get on to the news. And we'll say hello to deep breath. I'm going to say hello to Darren McGinnis, Dave Swindle, Mike Clages. Apologies if I've mangled their name there, Mike. Ian Goldstraw, Paul Milligan, Mark Ryan, Greg Woodbridge, Anthony Bird, Dougal McWoogle, Dave Coward, Brian Wilton, Mike Williams, Douglas Hunter, Pavel Krupovich, Colin Strachan, Lee Suter, Stephen Pryor, Wade BT, John, Patrick Huston, Andy Brennan, Juan Francisco Molinido, Dave Mummery, Steve Moores, Timothy Campbell, scrolls down, Mark Burgess, scrolls down. I think that's pretty much everybody who's at least popped their head up to say hello tonight. Mark Burgess has a question. He says, hi, Mark. Can you use turtle wax for polishing scratches from canopies?
I would suggest it would be really, really handy for restoring a high gloss to a canopy, but it's so fine that I don't think for any kind of down to about what you'd normally use a 12,000 grit like micro mesh for. I don't think it's gonna do any more than that.
No.
So I would suggest that while I would use it on a clear part after I polished it, just to, it's kind of like almost an equivalent of adding a coat of Johnson's Clear or Future or whatever to it. It's probably not going to be terribly useful as a way of polishing scratches out. It's nowhere near as abrasive as even toothpaste. So
I was just going to say, one thing to be very careful of with some of the proprietary paste you can get out there is, I learned to my cost decades ago, especially the ones that have a slightly kind of ammonia smell to them, they will make clear parts very fragile and crack them, and goodbye clear parts.
Yeah, so, I mean, for sort of the safest thing you can probably do in terms of polishes for canopies is look for the Tamiya compounds. Because they're made for the job.
Although toothpaste does tend to be rather foolproof. There is nothing really in toothpaste that is
no.
And especially some of the tooth powder you can get is probably it's that'll work, and it's non-toxic. So you'd
rather hope so, wouldn't you?
Sorry,
you'd rather hope so.
I'd rather hope so. Yes, exactly. So actually, just to go off on a slight tangent here, but modelling related, because I had to have a filling replaced beginning of the year. In fact, it was the filling that fell out when we were at Telford last. You remember we were having breakfast, and I suddenly went, I think I've just swallowed my filling, right? And that was the old kind of like metal amalgam fillings. You see, the ones I've got now are UV cured resin. And I was quizzing the dentist about this because this is fantastic. So I've now got all the gen I need to know about this UV curing resin that they're doing for fillings now, because I thought that's got modelling, that's got modelling possibilities. I'm sure Paul Budzig's been using it for years, mind you. But
funny thing is that I just got some dental powder this week. This stuff is pretty expensive, I have to say. So getting about 225 grams, and to order that and get it delivered was about £30. So it's not cheap. But on the other hand, there's probably
how long is that going to last though?
That'll probably be the only one I'll ever need to buy, I would suggest. But you kind of decant it into little bottles. There's some acrylic resin powder as well that I got. That's the stuff that they use for nails, for nail polishing and stuff like that. This stuff is great for reinforcing stuff with super glue, but it's quite coarse. It feels quite grainy, whereas this is like almost a dust.
What do you mix with that? I know you're using it with super glue. What will you mix with that ordinarily to actually turn it into a liquid?
Well, I mean, according to the Paul Budzick video, there's a kind of a solvent based monomer that they mix it with,
right?
But he doesn't use that on his models because it's a solvent base, so it attacks the plastic. So what you're looking for is something that, that doesn't attack the plastic. So this stuff here, I just mix it with super glue. It's got a 5 to 10 minute work time. Fantastic for reinforcing stuff, and all that sort of thing. And like I say, that 225 grams. For some reason, it was about £16 plus VAT. So you had plus postage, and postage was about £8 or £9 for whatever reason. And I kind of cancelled the order 3 or 4 times before going, oh, what the hell, just based on the postage cost. But like I say, I suspect that'll be all I'll ever need.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on the idea now that my dentist has been shoving solvents down the back of my throat. It's
no. He won't have been using that's used for denture work. This is the stuff that's used for denture work and things like that. It's not the.
No, I know. Right, before we go on to the news thing, I'll just very quickly. You might have seen. I kind of got this done. The little SU 122.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm gonna live with the barrel. The barrel, you've got a separate muzzle on it. The fit isn't great, but at the end of the day, this has got to be the kit. It can't be my kind of interpretation of it.
Yeah.
The one thing I did do was I have a mix of. This is my lovely dirty brown black mix of Tamiya acrylics. This is my go-to kind of grunge color. And I literally just sprayed all the running gear and the tracks with that. Then we just literally paper, just shoved it into the running gear. This isn't the paper, but there we go. Just literally did that.
Yeah.
Shoved some paper in there, sprayed the upper sections with the wonderful SMS 4BO green. Then just went on the. I don't worry about the undersides because nobody's going to see them, and that tends to be my test bed thing. Then just the road wheels I sprayed them freehand, and it doesn't matter the fact that they get a bit darker out towards the edges where the tires are, because when I get around to weathering that works in my favor anyway.
Yeah.
So actually, rather than sit here with a paintbrush and just going, I've got to paint all the tires black. That's a really quick way of doing tanks, quite frankly. And in fact, it's funny. Martin Kovac, I've been watching, Martin's Night Shift channel. He's going down the same route of, if it's a cheat and it works, do it. Don't worry about whether you're doing it the right way. There is no right or wrong way. There is the way
if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. If it's a cheat but it works, it's not a cheat. It's a process. Yeah. As I keep saying to anybody who listen, you do not have to stand by your techniques. The only thing you have to stand by is your results.
Yeah. So this is going to get a coat of hairspray tomorrow night, chipping fluid, hairspray, whatnot, and then and the fun part, we're going to put some winter white camo on there and chip that. So, but that's it honestly, in terms of painting things, it's just. Yeah, it's a quick way of doing things, and that's what I want to do with this. Is just, but when I say bang it out quickly, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean I want to get the project done in a manner where, again, it's the results that matter, not the techniques. So I'm trying to do it in a much more linear route, and a much more expeditious route, and then see what the results are. But. And Juan asks.
I was about to Juan. What about baby talc? Yeah, talc works great. I use talc all the time. I've got talc mixed with black pigment, so you can see where you've applied it. The resin is stronger. The resin is stronger, and it sets a little bit harder than the talc and CA mixture. Not terribly, not a great deal harder, but I would tend to trust the dental resin for something that needs strength, because if you look at the Paul Budzik videos again, he uses it for reinforcing joints and doing all that sort of stuff. Also I think you'll be able to get a sharper edge with the dental resin that has got the strength to hold over a talc one, which will perhaps be more susceptible to crumbling. So talc works great for actually filling gaps, and it once it's set, it's nice and easily sandable. So again, it's like, you end up with all of these different materials but similar techniques, if you like. So whilst I generally will use a dental resin now, I still have the talc because it will come in handy at some point. So different materials, they behave slightly differently, but they've all got their place.
Right. Let's move on then. We have been talking trash for about the last half hour. Now it's time to talk trash. And
can I just say one quick thing?
Go on.
Steve Moore says, anyone use micro balloons?
No.
I have got a big bucket of micro balloons here. It sets CA instantly and rock hard. Absolutely rock hard. I used to use it about 20 years ago. I've still got the remnants of a big tub of it here. And it is just, you can't mix it and then use it like you can with these other materials because it just sets it instantly. Much like baking, much like bicarbonate soda does. So, yes, I've used them. No, I don't use them anymore. Moving on. Trash.
Well, you completely destroyed that segue there. That was just, honestly, talk about ruining good comedy material. and as soon as we get some, you can ruin it.
I was going to say, that's why I'm here. I'm just waiting for some to turn up.
Exactly. Thank you. Mini-Art, promising new company. You might not have heard of them. Another one of their fantastically esoteric releases that just looks absolutely fabulous. And here we have some steel trash bins. Apparently these are US models, but there's no reason why these may not appear in different parts of the world. As always, for Mini-Art, the box art itself is a fabulous bit of reference. In fact, we're going to talk about Mini-Art box art on one of the next things for tonight. Fabulous bit of reference in terms of painting and weathering. The parts themselves, well, that's pretty much it. 4 sprues, 2 of that, 2 of that. And yeah, I had no idea until this week that I really wanted some steel trash bins in my modeling life, but now I do. The end.
I think they look great. They're always, but they're going to be quite small, aren't they? Even in 35th scale.
Yeah.
You know, that's almost the sort of thing that I would design in 3D print. Yeah. It would come out in one part. But for those who don't have access to that kind of those kind of things, yeah, Mini-Art is it's just brilliant. It's just, you know, they are really every time they come up with a new release, which is basically every week, you go, oh, I never thought of that. Oh, really? You know, it's just love it. Yep. Absolutely love it. You know, will I ever use it? No, because I don't build dioramas, so it's not something that is relevant to my modelling.
You don't build dioramas yet.
I tend to finish a model and I just want to get straight on with the next one. I don't really get caught up in the diorama stuff, much as I'd like to, and every time I see it happening I go, oh, I've got to do that, and then I just kind of run out of steam. And then I move on to the next actual build.
Let's move on to the next thing, shall we? And this is right up your street, isn't it?
Right. Oh dear. Yes. So I think this is due out in about October time, which is the second release from ICM of the 32nd scale AH1G Cobra. This is the late production one. Now, it should be said that the early production one that I already have the boxing of, probably 90% of what is required to do a late model is already in the box.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually do a late model Cobra from the current boxing if you knew which bits you were looking for. It's got the sugar scoop, it's got different skids, it's got different styles of tail and tail rotor, all that kind of stuff. So you could potentially, if you had the markings, you can do a late model from the current kit. What this particular release will have is the M35 20mm cannon with the ammunition pods just above the skids there.
Mm-hmm.
And the armor on the port side of below the canopy, which was required because of the blast of the big 20mm cannon when it was used. So it'll be interesting to see what markings come with this model. But you can see the armor there immediately below the canopy. those big armor plates there. And yeah, it's another one that I'll be getting when it's released anyway. And again, Cobras with shark mouths, it's just...
I say we know one scheme, and that's big scary shark mouth. So
yeah. And so there's not really an awful lot I can say from my previous enthusiasm, other than to say I'll be getting one of these as well, because I really like the M35 with the ammunition pod setup. What great!
There is something about the Cobra. I mean, I built the Italeri AH1. Was it the Z? I'm trying to think. It was.
They did the AH1W and the AH1T.
AH1, yeah, it's a whiskey. I built that when it came out in 1992-ish, which I quite enjoyed. It was a fun model to build, but there's just something about the Cobra. It just, isn't it? Isn't it?
It's just a very sleek.
Yeah.
A very, very sleek, but it was also clean. Gunship helicopters over the years have become gradually more covered in bits and bobs, and there you can see the different skids there as well. That's got the tubular skid, whereas that one's got the aerodynamic fairings over the skids. But again, that is all that is actually in the existing kit. As is, one of the other major differences is that it's got the sugar scoop exhaust there to dissipate the heat. Because at the time when these were coming into service, the SA-7 Strela was just becoming quite common in Vietnam. So they were losing a lot of helicopters to these small shoulder-launched surface-to-air missiles. So this is this is one of the first solutions to that, which was the sugar scoop exhaust, which just pushed the hot air up into the rotor disc and then dissipated the hot air, and hopefully meant that the Strela couldn't lock onto it. So, yes, yes, please, yes, please. That's all I can say.
It is. Life is full of regrets, and one of my regrets is that there's simply are not enough hours in the days to build all these kits that are coming out. It's maddening, isn't it? I mean, it's like anybody says, there's nothing coming out really. Pete, there's nothing really appeals to me, and it's like, really?
It's almost like during the summer holidays when your parents look at you exasperatedly when you go, "I'm bored."
How can you be bored?
Be bored, it's just. And I mean, the Cobra is just such a terrific looking helicopter, and a really important one as well. So, thank you very much, ICM. And I did actually say ICM were running a bit of a poll earlier this week. Which other variants of the Cobra would you like to see us do? And I just asked for an AH-1J, the Sea Cobra, which is basically like the AH-1, that same one, just with the twin pack engine. It's got the same fuselage and all that sort of stuff, which would be because they were used in Vietnam as well. So that would be the kind of US Marine side of that equation. So if you're watching ICM, yes, please. In fact, you could do all of the Cobras, and I'll be quite happy. It's a helicopter you never bore of. So.
No, I haven't built any for years, but it's just one of those, one of those helicopters that. Like I said, just the shape of it, it looks fast when it's standing still, doesn't it?
Yes, very, very sleek helicopter. And it was a very early one with, the early Gs and stuff with the rounded canopy, and it didn't have the sighting system on the nose. So it's got that pointed, that sleek pointed nose and all that kind of stuff. It's a fantastic looking machine. Fantastic.
Right, let's move on. Now, this is a little bit of deja vu, and in fact, we will have a brief discussion about this to allay any kind of like conspiracy theories. I think it's the best way of putting it. And that is, last week we were talking about ICM and the fact that they had announced that they were doing a G7107 truck in 1/35th scale. Well, looky here, everybody. Mini-Art have announced they're doing a 35th scale US Army G7107 truck. Now, okay, let's differentiate here. That ICM are definitely going for the Russian angle with their kit. Mini-Art are going full on with the American angle for theirs. Now, we will rattle through the images here in a second because it's quite clear that also the two companies are taking a slightly different approach. But we are having this discussion before we came on air, and I think we both said that there are people out there who are going to be saying, this is kit companies kind of reacting against each other again, and one does one and one has to do one as well. Frankly, as we start going through these pictures, I think it's fair to say that both companies have been working on their respective trucks for quite a while. This isn't some kind of reactionary thing. They have both been devoting hours and hours, hundreds of hours of time to doing these models. It's just the timing of the announcements has come, within a week of each other. It happens. There is no kind of war going on between manufacturers here. It just happens. Discuss.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I suspect probably in the very worst case scenario, one company announcing it might have prompted another company to announce that they also had one in the works.
Just bring it up in terms of a release schedule.
It might have altered the release schedule for the companies, but I would be incredibly surprised if this is a kind of off-the-cuff counter announcement. These renders will have taken weeks to do. Never mind.
Yes, exactly. It's not like they're suddenly going, "Oh, ICM are doing one. Quick, let's knock up a mock-up, shall we?" No. This is
clearly this is the result of months and months of work, isn't it?
Exactly, and as I said just now, that what you've got here is you've also got two kits that are almost going for two different ends of the market. So I think from what we saw of the ICM one last week, that's a little bit more, I don't want to say curbside because it sounds like we're being a little bit dismissive. It's a little bit more straightforward and will probably be a quicker, albeit very highly detailed model to build. This, on the other hand, this isn't going to be a weekend project. This is Mini-Art doing to a truck what they do to some of their tanks with interiors. This is an engineering study in its own right, isn't it?
It's just phenomenal, isn't it? It's just absolutely. It kind of makes me almost want to build one.
It kind of makes you want to overcome your phobia about photo etch parts, doesn't it? It does me. I'm not a big fan of photo etch, and I've designed the things.
Here's the thing. Go back.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
That's the important thing. Yeah.
That's the important thing, is that they're making photo etch as easy as it can be to use.
Which also points to the fact that, again, this is something that has been in the works for a very long time.
Yes, yeah, and those those jigs for bending the photo etch. We've all seen photo etch on previous stuff where they just give you the flat bit and show you roughly where to bend it, and that's why I kind of lose patience with PE really quickly, because if you're a fraction of a millimeter out on bending one of those things, the whole everything kind of knocks through to further assemblies. This is making it as foolproof as it possibly can be, while keeping it in scale. So I'm impressed. Oh,
it just looks beautiful. And having built that Lands Bulldog tractor earlier in the year, which that was fairly straightforward. That was a fairly simple kit, but it was the first kind of Mini-Art vehicle kit that I built. And as a brand, I know we eulogize about them pretty much every week on the show, but as a brand, actually building one of their kits, I was just so impressed with it. And just everything about the package, literally everything about the package, the box art, the decals, the instruction sheets, the molding, everything about it, was just fabulous. And we were talking about box art just now. And again, as a piece of box art, there is so much on that box art that is an inspiration and a use for a reference for actually painting and weathering the vehicle.
Yeah,
it's fabulous box art.
Your experience of actually building the kit, matches the professionalism of the package as it's presented, then they're doing
Yeah.
something right, aren't they? We've all
Yeah.
seen incredibly professionally presented packages which are absolute horror shows to build. Not mentioning any names, TriMaster back in the day. Their kits were just phenomenally packaged and presented, but they tended to be a challenge to actually build.
But this, like I say, we've had two releases now in the space of or two announcements rather in the space of a week. But do you know what? I'd happily build both, and I'd happily build both together to, just to experience the two different manufacturers' approaches to the same subject.
Well, that's you sorted then, isn't it?
I got so many other things I got to build at the moment. So, as I say, not enough time. It's this hobby. I'm bored. There's no new kits coming out. Why are they so boring? Why can't they do something unusual?
Somebody will be along to tell us it's the wrong scale any second.
It should have been a sailing ship. It should have been a sailing ship. But yeah, so Mini Art, promising little manufacturer, unsung, barely ever heard of. I think that's going to be another winner from them. And let's move on to something that I know is of particularly exciting interest to you, isn't it?
Sky Shark.
Let's just call up the. Hang about, I've got to call up the image here because it's not formatting properly. Goodness me! Come on, This is ClearProp. They've already announced and released that they're doing they've done the 48th scale Sky Shark, but this is more your scale, isn't it? This is a 72nd scale one.
Although having said that, I did order the 48 scale one, and then in a fit of common sense, I cancelled the order because it was for an early one, and I wanted a late model of the Sky Shark because it did change quite significantly through its development process. And then they subsequently said, yeah, we're doing it in 72nd as well. So I want all of the 72nd scale Sky Sharks, basically. It's a fantastic looking aeroplane. It's a shame that the wings are folded like that, but moving on. No, it's a shame that it was never as successful because it certainly, to me at least, looked right. It was designed sort of as a successor to the Sky Raider. It's a little bit bigger than a Sky Raider, but almost exactly the same role, almost a very similar weapons load. It would just been more powerful and faster had it entered service. But again, it was one of those aircraft that came out just at the wrong time. It was early generations of turboprop engines, which didn't really they were just ripe with problems.
It was an emerging technology. That's that
very,
way.
very much so. So this had the XT40, which was almost an American equivalent of the double Mamba in the Gannet. Mm-hmm. It was two engines coupled to a common gearbox driving a contraprop. In fairness, the double Mamba went on to be very, very successful. Allison always struggled with the XT40 and particularly with the contraprop. And it was the same with the R3Y Tradewind, which was a big transport aircraft, which also had the XT40 engine. And it was always hamstrung by the contraprops and the problems with the engine. So by that time, we were starting to see, Douglas themselves were working on the Skyhawk and things like that. And ultimately, it just wasn't enough of a performance benefit over the Sky Raider to warrant going into production. So it's a shame, but great looking aeroplane. And this model just looks fantastic. Some of the ones there's the 48th and 72nd scale test builds I've seen of it. It just looks absolutely fantastic, this model.
I say the surface detail on this looks beautiful.
Yeah. Did you see the 48 scale test build?
I know Spencer and I covered it quite extensively.
The Russian modeler, wasn't there? Who built one, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And I've also seen the 72nd scale one test built to pretty much the same standard. So I want this. I want this really quite badly.
You see, I have absolutely no dog in this particular conflict. It's not an aeroplane that terribly interests me. I have no kind of emotional attachment with it as a subject. But as often happens, you see a phenomenally well put together kit, package, molded, the molding of the kit, the presentation, everything, and then you suddenly think, okay, yeah, your head gets turned.
Yeah, it's a good looking aeroplane. It was a big, brutish, powerful looking aeroplane.
It's kind of like as you say, it's the better looking version of the Sky Raider, or what it could have evolved into.
But by that time, the Skyhawk was coming along, and there was just basically it was almost it was redundant before it came into service. I mean, the Wyvern was just, the Wyvern only served for 3 years on carriers, didn't it? That was it. So, and that was almost immediately sort of superseded by jets. So, I mean, it has been a remarkably well kitted aeroplane, I think, over the years. I think Microscale did one originally in some kind of weird scale.
Microscale?
Yeah, Microscale released a few kits in the 70s, didn't they? A few almost desk stand type models.
Oh, okay.
In some odd scales, and I think the Sky Shark was one of them, along with the Sky Ray and something else. But I mean, in 1982 or 3, something like that, Rare Planes did a vac form of it, which I've built several times over the years, and is a really, really nice model. Then Dynavector came along with an absolutely stellar 48 scale vac form. And again, if anybody's ever wondered about Dynavector kits, just build one. It's
they are the Tamiya of vac
I'm about to say that it's the nearest you get to a Tamiya kit in vac form. In vac form, they are really the easiest vac forms you're ever going to come across, because Taro was just a genius at what he did.
Yeah, and in fact, I would say some of the Dynavector vac forms are actually easier to build than injection molded kits from mainstream manufacturers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I think the best, one of the best ones of the Dynavector I've ever seen built was by Robin Powell, who built one. And I remember looking at his and going, it's just, and he's all said it's just such an easy model to build. It's just a no-brainer. So yeah, it's actually been better served in kit form than you might expect for an aircraft which never made it past development. And now this year, clear prop, 48 scale and 72nd scale boxings. And I think looking at this 72nd one, it is more or less a direct scale down on the 48th one. There's very little different about it.
As I said, I have no great emotional attachment to the subject. It just Sky Shark, whatever, mate. And then I look at this and I think, do you know what?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have any great emotional attachment to it. I just think it's a cool aeroplane.
Well, I never. It's one of those prototypes that I see it and I think, okay, next slide, please. But now you see this and you think, yeah, actually, I'll have a slice of that if you don't mind. And also, more importantly, being a Navy airplane, you can do it with the wings folded, as all Navy airplanes should be modelled by law. So, sorry, you broke up a bit there, Drew. I missed that.
Yeah, I'm sure I did break up.
We'll be breaking up over this, I can tell.
Oh.
But we will talk about this another time. Is that Clearprop also had some images up this week of a test build of their Mohawk.
Oh lordy!
Oh lordy! Yeah,
beautiful. Or what?
No, I've got one of the little Hasegawa kits of that, and I think we can safely say this is going to be chalk and cheese.
Yeah, it's a
chalk
nice
cheese, mate.
It's a nice little kit. For considering it's from about 1969 or 68 or 69, it's actually not a bad little model. Just very much. Sorry about that. Just very much of its time. So yeah, Clearprop. Basically, more or less everything Clearprop have announced in terms of post-war stuff, I want.
Yep.
Because they've also announced they've announced a Super Freelon, haven't they?
They have announced Super. We were talking about the midweek, weren't we, about the lack of
Yeah.
More Super Freelon kits.
And I think further down the line, they've also announced MiG-23s and Sukhoi Su-25s as well. So, you know, they're sort of nailing their colours to the mast. Although I don't know what stage of development any of those kits are. But for this year, Sky Sharks, Mohawks, and hopefully a Super Freelon. Again, finding time, isn't it? It's just finding time to fit all these projects in. You're getting so much brilliant plastic being released.
Yeah, it's really quite depressing to be living through such a fantastic golden age of modelling, whereby it's just kind of like, there are too many kits coming out. Stop it, please, really. I've got a Westland Whirlwind here I want to get on with because that's my favourite aeroplane of all time, ever. And unfortunately, I've had to, because it's a me project, I've had to stop work on it because I'm doing other things for other people.
I do have to say this MB326 has gone really, really well for something. I'm really glad I'm back in the groove of just sort of smashing through stuff. It's
always telling that when I see somebody else, when I send a kit out to somebody else and I see them building it, and I sit and I go, I quite fancy building that actually. But it's like no. It's good to see that one. You were the right person to build that. So
I would say yes. Really, it's a kit for 40 years old. It kind of surprises me that I've never built it before. And I've got this far in this one, I think, and I was thinking to myself last night, I really hope Italeri released the MB326K, the Impala, the single-seat attack variant. Then lo and behold, I go and look on ScaleMates, and they released it in 2012, so I kind of missed the boat on that one. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll be along again at some point, but for a 40-year-old model...
well, he says, I'm just checking. I'm not being rude and checking my phone here. I'm just checking. We do have there is a package apparently on its way to Interesting HQ here, which includes you'll love this. This is stuff that's really going to interest you, Drew. Which includes a Tamiya 35th scale Panzer IV Ausf H. All right, German tank. Drew's frozen there. No, he's just fallen asleep. That's the new little Panzer IV, which I built the recent, was it the D or the F? Either way, it was the new kit and it was brilliant. So I'm looking forward to building that. Also, the brand new 35th scale Kettenkrad. Yay, because I love the Kettenkrad. It's one of my favourite vehicles. Do you remember when we were at? Remember we went to that World War II show about 3 years ago?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I photographed the bejesus out of that little Kettenkrad that was there. That was a good show, that actually. We also got down here Henschel, but I'm not sure whether that's the 123 or the 126. Also should be arriving is the C27 Spartan, which I think you started one when it came out, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, we'll send you another one. And the 72nd scale Churchill, the old kit. Now I haven't built that in over 40 years, and I am really looking forward to building that again because I've got good memories of that kit, so we will see whether those memories are to be rewarded. It's a bit of a kind of like a catch-22 with some of these small scale armor things because it was good to later rest the ghost of that Stuka Su Fuss because that perplexed me as a teenager. I could not get those rocket pallets together. Now, as a boring old man in his 50s, I still couldn't get those rocket pallets together. So it wasn't me, it was the kit. But good to get that one out of the way. Good to build that little Skoda tank. Just very tricky model to build because of how it was broken down. So I am especially looking forward to cranking a Churchill out of the workshop. So we've gone past...
I got the, when I was about 9 years old, I got the Eschi Sherman Calliope.
Yeah, I've always wanted to build that one.
And I'm going to be honest, at 9 years old, that model made me cry.
Okay.
That model made me cry because it was just, I can just remember being sat in the front room with that model in my lap and a tube of glue and being in tears that something, trying to get the tracks on or something, and it just wouldn't, pulled all the wheels out of place and all the rest of it. And it's just kind of thing. And it would be any better now.
Let's be fair, though. The chances are those wheels had probably only just been glued into place about 10 minutes previously. So,
I think that's generous.
Yeah, that's fine.
I
Right.
definitely remember it making me cry. So which might have been as much the kit as me as the kit. You're going to have to ding the bell, aren't you? Yeah, there you go.
Any other business?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I understand the Tamiya Phantom is now on general release in the States at least, so that's
Okay.
people to watch out for.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll be building one at some stage. So lucky
So-
old you.
Well, hopefully.
Lucky old you.
So
In
in fact, I'm planning to do that one with folded wings.
As is proper with all naval aeroplanes.
I'd made because the kit includes it as an option. I think it would be nice to include that option.
I think that's how they should all be built.
Oh, not all of them, but I'll concede on this one, and do it with folded wings. I think.
I do remember. I've probably told this story before, but I do remember. This is going. Oh, it's over 20 years ago now. This is 21 years ago, and HMS Illustrious was going to be sailing past here at Battery Point, and I got myself a really good spot down by the lighthouse to see it as it went past. I then ended up with Expert Dad behind me. Expert Dad, who literally was like that guy off the Fast Show, who competitive dad. And he was there, and he was like, "Pay attention, Toby. Aircraft carrier will be coming past soon in a minute." And he's just like reeling off all this stuff about HMS Illustrious, and I'm sat there and I'm biting my tongue because it's like, shut up, when you shut up. And he goes, and as it hoves into view, he goes, now pay attention, Toby. If you look very carefully, you'll see the aircraft, the Harriers on the deck, and if you look very carefully, Toby, you'll see that they've all got their wings folded. And I almost turned round to kind of go. Well, I didn't. I kept my cool.
You kept your cool.
I kept my cool. Anyway, my other business is Warner's Music. Hello, Warner's Music. You have tried.
They are very.
Hang on. This is my. You've cooked your any other business, chummy. This is my rant now, right? Warner's Music. You have tried repeatedly over the last couple of weeks to put in a claim to say that we used for the Festival of Scale Modelling Elgar's Nimrod, which you say was your recording. It wasn't. It was a public domain recording. I was very particular in sourcing a public domain recording. You have acknowledged that you were in error and dropped your claim against the use of the music, only to then a couple of weeks later put the claim back in for it to have to be batted back and then accept that there is no claim. Rinse and repeat. I wouldn't mind, but the territories that they are putting the claim in for as being this violates the rights in these countries, the territories they're putting these claims. Hang about. You're going to spoil my punchline here. The countries are Syria, Iran, Cuba, and North Korea. Now, look, I am sure the very fine and lovely people of Syria, Iran, Cuba, and North Korea have other things to worry about than accidentally being exposed to some music that might not have a performance right in their country. So, I hate to have to gallop along here on a bit of a rant, but Warner's Music, really, knock it off. It's getting boring now.
Warner Music Group licensing are the worst kind of vermin. I don't know. Do you watch Rick Beato?
No.
Well, you should, because you're a musician, and if you're not watching Rick Beato, you're not really a musician.
Oh,
anyway,
on record, peeps, he's called me a musician.
Well, you claim to be a musician, and you can't claim.
No.
Rick Beato. But he's had major issues with Warner Music Group recently, and it was Syria, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, because he does what makes this tune so great, and he is a.
Oh. Yes, because we sat and watched the thing about Boston More than the Feeling, and he.
Well, the fact that that's the only one of those you've seen just disappoints me. I'm not angry at you. I'm disappointed.
I haven't got time to watch all these things.
You've got time to watch 15 minutes of YouTube once a week.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, don't. All right. Don't be that person. But yeah, it's exactly the same. This is Warner Music Group are just the lowest of the low. They just bung these things out left, right, and centre for people, and let them fight them. And the thing is, if you try and fight them, the people who make the decision on whether it stands or not is Warner Music Group. It's not like an independent arbitrator.
The ridiculous thing is they have accepted that they are in error, that this is not their recording, and then they try and shove it back through again. It's like, anyway.
Because somebody else will have sat down at a desk one morning and seen it and decided to take a punt at it again.
Honestly, if we do that kind of thing again, it's just going to be original music next time.
But yeah, Rick Beato, people, if you like music.
Yeah, he's very, very good.
Rick Beato, because amazing.
And we will point out that obviously Drew's rodent comparisons are his own personal views and do not necessarily reflect the views, values of the Interesting Modelling Company. So don't say a thing.
I'm quite happy to stand on that judgment of Warner Music Group.
There we go. Anyway, so to all our viewers in Iran, Syria, Cuba, and North Korea, I hope you enjoyed the festival, but we weren't too upset with the music, apparently. Anyway, on that note, it just remains for us to say, well, good to end on a bit of controversy, isn't it?
Well, it's hardly controversial, is it?
It's just nonsense. There are far worse things going on in the world at the moment than a recording of a piece of music from 60 years ago, for goodness sake.
Just very briefly before we go, 2 weeks ago, he played, I think it was a few chords from a Led Zeppelin song. He didn't play them. No, wait there. He played them on an acoustic guitar just to show what the chords were. Not even in order, so you couldn't. Warner Music Group put in a claim against him.
He probably mentioned, if he'd have sat there and actually said the chords are A, D minor, G, and F, they'd have gone, oh, that's a claim.
But the problem is it would never stand up in court, but they just take a punt because most people haven't got the resources to be able to fight it.
Oh, it's not that I've got the resources. I've got the original recording, and I gave them all the details.
Most people do not have the resources to fight them. Anyway. So what happens is their money gets the video gets monetized on behalf of Warner Music Group, and they make money off of that video.
Yeah. Anyway, so join us next week for two men ranting about music copyright. Anyway, on that note. What you do? I don't know. It started off.
You can't say we don't go off on tangents.
It started off as a modelling podcast, and it just went off on a ranting in against Warner's for some reason. It's just like
it proves that we're human beings with other interests.
No, we're just trying to do our thing, man. Anyway, but yeah, Rick. Yeah, but just to confirm that Rick Beato videos, they are brilliant, and the one on the Mourner Feeling that was exactly everything on the years that we've driven to Telford, and I've said to you, this is the most perfect rock song ever written. If I'd have got the chance to write one song in the history of everything, it would be Mourner Feeling by Boston, because that, to me, everything in that epitomizes what a good rock song should be. And Rick Beato, he went through it forensically, and it was like, there you go. There are even things in it that I'd never noticed before, like the way the vocal and the guitar blend in. And then when you hear it again, you're like, oh, that's even better than I thought it was. It's a phenomenal song. Anyway, so join us next week for the Interesting Music Company show, and we'll talk more nonsense. Anyway, on that note, we've got to go because we've got other things to be doing. So that's it. You up for Wednesday?
I'm working, I'm afraid. I'm on late shift this week.
You're on late shift, that's fine. Okay, we'll find some other ne'er-do-well to fill in for you.
Reeves.
Yeah, Reeves. On that note, just remains to say thank you for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you putting up with us having a bit of a rant there. On this note, it just remains for us to say stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Don't play any music, for goodness sake. And we will see you midweek. So for the pair of us, be seeing you. Bye for now.
Bye for now.